I'm Anne Murray, and this is again tea time. We're in the almost the last week of the class, and we've recently been talking about women working and women in conflict. Um, Last time I did a tea time video, I was on the coast of Maine, and I recorded that video on the rocks or next to the sea. But here I am back in California in my office, and I thought I would just drink my tea out of a cup from New Zealand, since New Zealand is my home country, my country of citizenship. Well, I have a couple of announcements right now. One is that people have been asking about the last day that they can submit their materials for a statement of accomplishment for this class, and that day is October 5th. So October 5th at midnight in California, other times in other places, please have all of your materials in for the statement of accomplishment. Another announcement has to do with the Spanish version of this course, of this MOOC. We've been working very hard to get the Spanish version up, and we hoped it would go up in October, but that is not going to happen. The Spanish version will go up in mid-January of 2016. We've had some delays of various kinds, and we have to delay this until then, at which time we hope that the English version will go up again with some modifications and updates, and the Chinese version in China will also go up. So in mid-January 2016, the MOOC will go up in 3 languages, which I think is extremely exciting. Let me speak a little bit about the issues that we've been thinking and reading and writing about over the last couple of weeks. Last tea time, I mentioned that reproductive health and violence against women were 2 out of the 3 issues that I thought united women around the world. The third issue is one that we've been reading and writing about in recent weeks, and that is women's access to paid employment and equal pay for equal work. In some of the discussions, people have commented that women in the United States have equal pay for equal work, which is not true. In the United States, as well as many other countries, women are not being paid equally for the same work. In the United States, the percentage is about 77 cents on a dollar for women's work compared with men's. So we still have a long way to go for women to have equal pay for equal work, let alone appropriate conditions in their work, and even the basic ability to work for wages. This, I believe, is the third issue that affects women all around the world. These 3 issues are not equally important around the world, but are of concern to women in all countries. Reproductive health, the ability to control our fertility, violence against women, the ability to have the right to bodily integrity, and the third, the ability to participate actively in the cash economy in an equal way. These 3 issues are immensely important. Then there are other issues that affect women in particular parts of the world right now, and one that seems to be overwhelming at the moment is the issue of conflict and refugee situations of women. We have a number of good readings on the topic, and it is brought to mind very, very closely by the situation that continues in parts of Africa, but particularly now the situation of people in Syria, as thousands of people are fleeing from violence in that country. Women are particularly affected in terms of their health and reproductive rights, and in times of flight and resettlement. And violence proliferates in these kinds of circumstances. I'm looking forward to interviewing one of the grantees of the Global Fund for Women from Syria, who is knowledgeable about these issues, and that interview, I hope, will appear in the next session of this MOOC when we put it up in January of 2016. This brings me to comments about some modifications that we do want to make in this course, and particularly for the session that will begin in mid-January of 2016. I hope to update a number of the readings. We've had some very thoughtful comments from students in this session about some of the readings being dated. And I would say I agree that they are dated. A good number of these readings were derived from my course that I teach at Stanford, which was put together some years ago. And although I have added and modified the reading list over the years, I have retained some readings from many years ago, readings that came out around 1995 in time for the Fourth World Conference on Women in Beijing, because I thought they were worth reading simply in terms of the perspectives that were presented in those writings. But I have been reminded that a good number of the readings are quite dated, and I'm going to try to deal with that to the extent that I can before the next session of this class goes up in mid-January 2016. Let me note that if you wish to be updated about what's going on with International Women's Health and Human Rights, this course, you can go to the website www.internationalwomenshealthandhumanrights.org. It's really www.internationalwomenshealth.org. And it summarizes what's happening with this course in the various languages and in terms of the dates for future sessions of IWHHR. So feel free to go to that website to be updated. But anyone who has signed up for the courses in the past, we attempt to update you on what's upcoming. So I did want to try, and do want to try, to deal with this issue of some of the readings being dated. And I'll appreciate your comments and your reactions to what I'm saying, thoughts from you about what might be useful readings or materials and resources. Some of you have provided some extremely thoughtful suggestions, and I appreciate that very much. I'd like to get back to this issue of the questions that seem to be universal for women. These three that I've highlighted: international women's health, referring to reproductive health, violence against women, and women's access to the cash economy. But there's another issue that is overarching for women internationally, and that is the issue of mental health. I have very few materials on that topic in this course, and yet it is a topic that permeates almost everything else we talk about during this course and anything that people would talk about if they're concerned with women's health and human rights. And I am open very much to suggestions of useful materials based on good documentation that deal with the question of mental health, particularly with an international perspective. I believe that we should have more presence of that issue in this course and would like to try to add that, if possible, in future sessions. Let me take a quick sip of my tea and see what else I wanted to cover. A very important issue that people raise in the course and also in my classes at Stanford is the simple question and very complex question of what we do about all of these sad issues that we take up in this class and in my class at Stanford. We're talking about abrogations of human rights. We're talking about serious assaults on women's health. And the question keeps arising: what can we do? My good students at Stanford are often asking that question. What can we do about this? What should I do in my life? Should I go into medicine? Should I become a lawyer? What should I do? And my response is not simple, but simply this: that I think we have to slice off a little piece of whatever particularly interests us and focus with great commitment and very consciously on whatever that slice of goodwill is. The one thing that we have control over is ourselves, the kind of people that we want to be. How do we want to be in this world? Do we want to be kind people, compassionate, thoughtful, generous, curious people? If so, I think we need to be that very consciously and even talk about it with people, that we value these aspects of our personalities, that this is what we want to be, this is the way we want to be, and in every day, act the way we want to be the change we would like to see in the world. Gandhi. It sounds simple to say this, but I don't think it is that simple, because often we talk about values like love and compassion, kindness, and so on, but we refer to them or we try to live by them, but we don't necessarily discuss this as an important intervention. The way we treat each other on a daily basis is tremendously powerful, and it's one thing that we can have control over. Of course, we can donate to worthy causes. Of course, we can begin organizations that may make a difference to women and others around the world. Of course, we can train to be teachers, doctors, nurses, whatever, and go into the world working in our professions with this commitment to kindness, compassion, and always learning from others. But the one thing that we do have control over is the way we are ourselves and how we can act on a daily basis with our friends, with our family, and with everyone we meet. And I think that it's powerful to think that we should be the kind of people we really want to be. I think it's an important intervention. I even teach a class at Stanford, a little one with a few students, called Love as a Force for Social Justice. I am of the mind that if we consciously act with compassion and kindness, with love, you might say, we can be a very powerful force in the world. Now, that may seem very sort of vague and touchy-feely, but it is something that we can do on a daily basis when we feel frustrated about the terribly serious issues that we take up in this class. Quite a number of people actually have asked the question, what can we do? And a woman recently in the discussions was speaking about the situation of women in Haiti and raising the question of what can be done. The question arises relating to many, many issues all around the world. We can only do what we ourselves can carve out, while we ourselves retain our own health and exercise our own human rights, and at the same time reach out to try to make a difference to others. So I will do one more tea time in about 10 days from now at the end of this course to kind of summarize the course. We're moving into the week where we're talking about aging, the end of life, and the end of the course. And the week after that, we have presentations from several people, including myself, about where we've come in the women's movement and where we're going. And that will round out the course. So I'll do another tea time in about 10 days or a couple of weeks and bid you farewell for this course, and now bid you farewell today. Speak with you in a couple of weeks. Bye.